Welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast where we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Rachel Gilman-Rischel. I run a firm called 3PR focused on healthy food brands, which I love, but I'm also deeply obsessed with introducing people that I think should know each other.
And I'm Gina Anderson Cohen. I've spent more than 13 years building a business that tricks adults into making friends through fitness called A Sweat Life. And I'm building a boutique hotel and event space in New Buffalo, Michigan. I don't know why I said boutique that way, but who cares? In New Buffalo, Michigan. So I'm obsessed with friendship and connection.
So Gina, we have this wonderful guest today, Laura Sanchez-Greenberg, and in honor of her and all of her coaching wisdom, I wanted to see if in your life there's a coach or a guide who has made a lifelong impact.
I have so many, Rachel. How much time do you have?
Go for it.
Okay. I will give 3 examples, but I'll start first and foremost with a business example. When A Sweat Life brought on more of a team and started to do more sponsorships, I wanted to talk to someone specifically about like money and getting confident about saying amounts of money out loud as I was asking folks to sponsor us. Her name was Emily. That was really, really helpful. I actually was like, I'm good. I don't need any more coaching right before the pandemic. and then who could have used more coaching? Me. And then exhibit 2 is pretty woo-woo, but every year I talk to an astrologer slash, I don't know what else to call her. We'll call her a guide, medium, called the High Priestess of Brooklyn. And she does my yearly reading as well as tarot cards. And I would call her like a guide or a coach. I love her so much. And then 3, I got really into this like yoga studio that did ceremonies and went on a guided, I won't say the name of the studio because this is an off menu offering that that included perhaps some psychedelics where one could touch the other side, if you will. But that was remarkable, wonderful, foundational. What about you, Rachel?
Did that leave an imprint? Was that a journey, if you will, that did change things? Or was it just sort of like a one-time? Yes.
Yeah. I got exponentially more woo-woo after that experience. Yeah. I highly recommend psychedelics.
Okay. We'll have to come back to this one offline.
Properly.
Yeah. When administered properly. Yes.
Yep.
Well, this is a little on the nose, but the coach that I want to talk about is Laura, our guest, which is kind of full circle in how it came together. But for context, Laura is incredible at what she does. She's worked with brands like Olipop and RX Bar and Simple Mills, among many others. And we got connected maybe 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And she essentially took me on as a charity case. I mean, I was not a big company. I was not somebody who could afford her typical rates, but we clicked. We had this mutual connection. And she was incredibly generous to coach me and give me very, very key foundational guidance as I was building my business. And there's one moment that stands out. And now I'm thinking about how you needed to be guided in regards to asking for money.
Yeah.
And one of my stumbling blocks was obviously the financial aspect. When you're building your own company and you have to set your rates, it is distinctly uncomfortable. So Laura did this exercise and she said, tell me your dream number. And I'm like, what? She goes, what amount of money would you be blown away to make? What is the number that would be the dream for you if that was your yearly income? And I was a little reluctant to even tell her, but I did. And she goes, Rachel, you are going to blow past that. And I was so taken aback because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't think it seemed feasible. And she was so certain. And she had such a calm, perspective on it. Like, oh, this is not irrational. This is not out of reach. I see this for you. And I really leaned into her certainty and her ability to forecast something that I could not picture for myself. And, I struggled with whether to even share this or not.
Yeah.
But as we're recording this year, my 9th year in business, I will essentially double the dream number, which is crazy. So crazy. But it was my limiting belief that she would not let me hold on to. And one of the greatest gifts she gave me was helping me understand my value and my worth and being comfortable sharing it publicly and ensuring that my clients could get on board with that. So I adore Laura for many reasons, but this was truly the life-changing impact she made.
Oh, that's so amazing, Rachel. And before recording, like to your point, Rachel, you were like, I don't know. And I made you.
Yes. I was like, is this uncouth to talk about money?
I think like part of Laura's work is teaching us like, no, it's not uncouth. Like, be proud of it. It's just data, like, and that's so amazing, Rachel. I'm so proud of you.
Yes. I mean, even one of the things she told me that I come back to over and over as I'm giving now advice to other people is that if you're looking at what to charge hourly, it's not about the time you spend, it's about the years of expertise that have informed that hour. So just because you can do something quickly because you spent 20 years learning doesn't mean you should be paid less for that efficiency. So she really shifted my own mental paradigm around how to value your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's great about Laura is she's such an incredible interview, wonderful thinker. Her name is also whispered in the 40s under 40s in Chicago. She is the best kept secret that is shared executive to executive. She has been recommended to me when I asked people about coaches years and years ago, but it was recommended but I don't think she has any availability because
that's why I felt so lucky.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. She's this whispered, secret resource that if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the chance that people can now hear her words and hear her perspective over this next interview is so valuable. So I'll give a little overview of Laura. Laura Sanchez-Greenberg is an executive coach and the managing partner of Verde Associates. But I feel like it is more accurate to call her like in all caps, the executive coach, because she works with everybody. And she really is spoken so highly of with like this borderline reverence. And especially if you're a high growth CPG company, you've probably been a Laura client, especially if you're in Chicago. She has this Midas touch, but it is matched by her fierce intellect, an incredible work ethic, an enviable sense of humor, and really infectious energy. So I'm so happy to welcome Laura to the podcast. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. Good to be here.
So I was realizing that we met almost 9 years ago when I was just starting my business, and I would call you a professional fairy godmother. Oh. I actually need to thank Megan Marshall all over again for connecting us, but you came in with this wand and waved it around just as I was really lost and needing guidance. So I am eternally grateful. And I think we should start with your superpower. You have this incredible ability to connect with people. And I want to figure out how you're able to bond with and help so many professionals as they're navigating their big company and professional moments.
Oh, you're asking me the question. Sorry.
I am asking you the question. It looks like you're about to take notes. Yes.
I was taking notes. It's a coach's habit to take notes so that you understand.
It was a long question, which is essentially your superpower is connecting with people. How do you do it so well?
I guess one of the things is you actively listen, right? So you're not always ready to respond, which you just thought. That's a deep question, I think. At its most simplest, though, I think it's why we live lives of disconnection, right? So like, especially if you're an executive, the things that drive connection, vulnerable conversations, trust, the higher you go, the less you have opportunities to do that. I could talk about pre and post COVID because I think we're massively more disconnected now than we were before. But in general, I think it's not a superpower, it's that I slow down, right? I think our brains are designed so much to put people into boxes. And when I meet somebody, I think, who is this person? And when we think about connection, right, someone wants to be recognized. And I don't mean like, here's a prize. They want to be recognized like you'd recognize someone on the street. Like, oh, Rachel, there you are, right? So I think the first step is saying to somebody, there you are, I see you, right? And often when we see somebody, we just see the good parts of them. We spend so much time performing for others. And I work so hard when I go to connect to somebody to help them not perform for me. So like, show me the good, show me the bad. And then when you can see the bad and most of the time, the things that hold people back are just overuses of what makes them great, right? Show me a really diligent person and I'll show you someone that can be a little perfectionist, right? So if you can see them in their totality, accept them and, love all the pieces of them. And I use the word love loosely. It can be a little woo woo, but I really think you can't transform someone you don't love. So for me, connection is about like seeing somebody, understanding them, making them feel safe, and sometimes letting them borrow your confidence before they have their own, right? And that's kind of how I approach our work, at least as a coach.
For the listeners, Rachel and my faces both really showed a suite of emotions throughout Laura chatting just then. There was awe. There was aha. I feel like Rachel showed a little bit of emotion, like maybe being understood a little bit. Is that right, Rachel?
Well, Laura, I know, Gina, you have so many questions too, but
That's
way
fine.
you said that giving somebody confidence or lending someone confidence when they don't have it yet is exactly why I have felt so tethered to you and so grateful to you all this time, is because I came to you in an incredibly vulnerable, very low esteem moment where I was really questioning my professional path and hitting reset. And so I took all the confidence that you were willing to bestow and I held on to it so tightly. And it felt like a real gift to have somebody of your stature lend me that confidence. So I can see why your clients feel so connected to you and so loyal to you.
Well, thanks. I will say this though, and now I'm going to break a coach's rule. You can stop me if I over disclose, right? I just want to be clear on like the lending confidence, which is you're not giving someone something that isn't earned. You're just seeing something that should be there. But often what we're afraid of, we all have trauma. Some of us have big T, bold, 72 font. Some of us have little t, 12 font trauma. But we all have it, right? And often whatever we're afraid of covers up our confidence. And so part of it is I knew what you were afraid of, right? Which was maybe that, not to be like Walt Whitman here, but that you were more than you thought you were, right? And so the minute that it was clear to me you were a badass, I don't know if I can say that on your podcast, but I think you knew it, but you were afraid to know it, So like part of it is it was there. It was just about seeing it first. I think that's that recognition part. Most people are really quite fantastic. They just don't know it. Do you know how many awesome people are walking around the world thinking they're not enough? There's a lot of them. I think if people thought they were enough, we'd probably solve a lot of world's problems. But
yeah, I'm hearing in kind of like what you're saying, and tell me if I'm hearing it incorrectly, but I'm hearing in what you're saying like a lot of vulnerability in the relationships that you have with your clients, and there's sort of this feeling that a lot of like executives and CEOs are meant to be unflappable and untouchable, which sort of acts counter in a lot of our minds to the idea of vulnerability or authenticity. So I am curious if you're seeing and encouraging in the people you're coaching both authenticity and vulnerability along with that confidence and quiet power, or if I'm totally misunderstanding.
Yeah, and you're going to excuse my habit so you're talking about authenticity, quiet power, and confidence, right? So the truth is they're all the same thing. So we tend to think about confidence. If I'm like the fake it till you make it, I don't know. That's never, when you see somebody that's very confidence is different than arrogance. Arrogance is insecurity with lipstick on, right? Like when you think about someone that's very confident, they're often very vulnerable and they often have quiet power, right? Someone confident is confident saying, I don't know. So what I often encourage the executives we work with is to connect. Before you can connect with anyone, you have to be able to connect with yourself. And if we go back to what I just said, I think the 3 elements of connection, right, are recognition, like a feeling of belonging, like I get you, I see you. And to a degree, there's this feeling, resonance we talk about, like that you resonate, like I vibe with you, right? If someone doesn't have those three things with themselves, I accept myself, I see myself, and I vibe with myself, they're not going to be able to connect with anyone else. So when we coach a founder or a CEO, I work with a lot of founders, it's like, see yourself clearly and stop performing in the places that, like I love when a founder's like, I have it all together. No, you don't. Does that mean you have to lose your mind on a team call with 100 of your employees? No. But does it mean that in the right places you could say, hey, I'm struggling with this and here's what I need? I've never seen a leader that says, I don't know, or this is hard for me, that isn't seen as more powerful after. And the research would show this too, by the way.
I know. Laura, I love a good rhyme scheme, but you have a phrase that I feel like you've used for team transitions. And is it forming, storming, and norming? Do I have that right?
So I wish that was mine. That is, well, it's the leadership model of the stages of team formation. I believe it's the guy named Tuckman. But it's forming, storming, forming, performing. And then there's then a team kind of cascades at the end, right? So it's maturity. But really, growing teams just go through those four.
I just kind of like the idea, even in the same way as the stages of grief, that people move through processes to reach a better outcome, and that to be really good collaborators, you're going to have to rumble a little bit before you come out the other side. So I just kind of wanted to understand what that process entails and maybe what people can keep in mind about it.
So I want you to think of at the heart of an act of creating. So what's the difference between a team and a group? Right? A team is a group of people that are working together. They're interrelated, working towards something. Is a team. A group is just a bunch of people doing tasks in the same space, right next to each other. And you have a lot of companies where it's a group. They should be a team, but really each member of the team has a relationship with the leader. So the reason for that is we become very fragile around becoming a team. So when a team first forms, to go through your stages of grief, right, with the team, when a team is forming, they're getting to know each other. Everyone's really polite. Oh, this is how you do that. Oh, that's interesting. I like that. Oh, really? There's a lot of that, but it's very performative and very surface. When we think about really creating a team, it's a series of small acts of social connection, of intimacy. And we always start small and then we get deeper, right? And usually where a team really forms is during the storming period. So after we form, everyone's polite. All teams go through storming, right? I always say when there's a team of 5, the 6th person at the table is the team, which is the team identity. Whenever you put someone new in, that team identity changes. And so when we get to storming, what happens? People hate conflict. People always say, I don't love conflict. Every human conflicts. You either passively conflict or actively conflict, right? A lot of teams go into storming, and what happens is they get fragile around it, and they don't learn how to manage through conflict. And so then they kind of back off and they go back to polite. So then the connection stays very surface level, right? Or they storm, they conflict, but they don't know how to repair. So then we get fiefdoms and pods and cliques and things. But most teams go through storming. Performing teams, then you have that sort of, we come into norming, right? We talk about, oh, I get it. That's how you like it. This is how I like it. We start to recognize each other's needs. We start to feel like I could belong in a place that has these norms, right? I belong to you. You belong to me. I can see it. And then I start to see, we have a shared meaning, what it means to be part of this team. That happens in norming. And only then, and I'm a performance researcher, right? I'm a practitioner scholar. Only then can a team really perform. So when you get group synergy, right? 1 + 1 is 2, + 1 is 3, + 1 is 7. It only happens when a team has gone through those stages. And I love a team that says to me, we've never stormed. I feel the same way when I meet a married couple that says they've never fought. I'm like, okay, great. Well, you're fragile, right? A lot of what happens in repair, right? So those are the stages of team formation, how we think about that.
I want to touch back on so many things you said, but I'll touch back first on repair. So because we know conflict is a part of every relationship and work is relationship, can you talk to us about like what good repair looks like? How we see teams come back together after that stage?
When there's conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you, conflict is a disagreement's like a tuna sandwich in a hot car, right? Like you don't want to let it sit too long. It gets real stinky. And we narrate around it, right? We villainize, we excuse, and our memories are really poor. So when you have a conflict, the way you'll remember it, that whenever somebody says to me I had a conflict, I usually will have them write it quickly, like send me a text, because the way we remember it immediately is very different than a week later. We actually catastrophize more, we villainize more. And so what good repair looks like is there's very little space between disagreement and the beginnings of repair. You want enough space for people to chill out and get out of their triggered states. But repair really has the three elements of connection, right? I see you. So let's say I violated an agreement on a project, right? And it impacted your work. I see you. So I say, hey, I'm sorry I was late on this project. I see how it impacted you, right? But fully seeing somebody is not then saying, I couldn't help it, XYZ. The minute we put an excuse or justification in, I'm not seeing the impact on you because I'm recentering it on me. So fully seeing my impact, then creating a sense of belonging. We're in it together, right? So like, what can I do, etc., to make this better? And then shared meaning, which is we agree on what it means to be part of this team. So next time I will do it differently. And so it's the same elements. They just show up differently in repair. And I will tell you, most humans are terrible at repair. We partially repair. I'm sorry, but here's why I did it. We just don't. And repair is, when we think about connection, to really do repair, it's not meeting someone halfway. You're meeting someone completely where they are, especially if you're the one that's done the damage, right?
Let's keep going with repair because I'm actually seeing a marital and parenting lesson in here too. So I'm taking this for all aspects of life. To really, say the conflict or the trouble spot was mutual. One person didn't do something majority wrong and the other person was victimized by it. But you want to be the person who initiates the repair. How do you navigate that when both people really need to own something and sort of mutually assess the damage and move through it? I think it's tricky. It's almost easier if one person is mostly at fault and they can acknowledge and apologize, but that middle ground, oof.
And it's always the middle ground, right? Most of the time.
Yeah.
A couple things, and this is the hardest thing. I always talk about, we spend our whole lives becoming grown-ups and then we die, right? Like, a full grown-up, right, owns their stuff and doesn't try to make anyone else own their stuff, right? And you meet people where they are. So if you think about, you've had a disagreement with somebody, let's say it's 50-50. There was damage, there was back and forth, who started it, all that jazz we go into. Are you guys familiar with Cartman's drama triangle at all?
No, but a drama triangle is intriguing. Yeah. Oh, of course you are, Gina. Yes.
Well, my therapist brought it up. So there's usually like a point of drama between three people, right? That's how it was used with me. But you tell us.
Well, so it can be used at Cartman's drama triangle is this. When we are dysfunctional as humans, we have three roles we love to go into, right? And those three roles are, I'm a hero. I'm going to ignore all my own stuff and fix your stuff, right? I got this. Sometimes a hero will, I'm going to take on all the thing of you being bad to me. Even, I'm going to do my half and your half of a disagreement. It's a hero. We become a villain, right? Or another way to think about this is a shame giver, right? Like if they didn't, if they hadn't, or sometimes we do it to ourselves. If I was just better, right? We do that. And the third one is we become a victim. They always, if I didn't. So to answer your question, Rachel, often we can't be functional if we're in one of those roles. So now let's go back to this example. You're in a thing that's both of you screwed up. Often you come into that and you go, I will apologize, but they need to, right? Which is that persecutor, that villain. Or I will apologize, but they'll never own their stuff, which is a victim narrative, right? Or I'll own my stuff because I'm going to fix the relationship. That's the hero. to be a fully grown up person, right? We can't worry about the other person because all we can control is us. Like there's a bunch of children running around the world trying to control what everybody else thinks. And as an adult, you just control yourself. So if your favorite, we all have a favorite story. I tell my clients, figure out what yours is, fight that one first. But let's say it's a victim that you go, well, I'll apologize, but they never will. Right? When we move to from a victim, the answer, the antidote to that is to move to a creator. Right? So I don't want to be a victim. I'm going to create the reality I want, which is what I'm going to own my stuff. Right? So, hey, here's what I brought to the party. I'm sorry. Right? Blah, blah, blah. And you properly do that. Same thing with hero. I'm going to own all of it. You don't have to be a hero. You could be a coach to somebody, right? So it's like, I'm going to own my stuff. It would be helpful if you, right? But you're showing up as a fully present adult. What happens then usually in a relationship with someone that's got enough health, right, is you've created what's called psychological safety, right? So if I come at you into that exchange and I say, I'm sorry, but you, right? The other person doesn't step up. And when you see this pattern of people that throughout their life tend to create better connections where people be like, wow, people always respond to them well, right? They apologize back. We've all known these people where they're like, never thought Bob would apologize, but they apologize to you. 9 times out of 10, what you find is the other person took unqualified responsibility for their own piece of something. And through them being an adult, the other person was forced to step up, right? So we sort of create our identities. With children, it's a little different, but I want you to think with children, we're modeling that also for them, right? So like, I love when a parent says, I wouldn't have yelled at you if you had, yikes, like, no good. That person's going to need some trauma therapy. It's much better to say to a child, I don't want to yell because that's not the kind of mama I want to be, right? Next time, and then you become a creator, right? You're not a villain. Next time, could we maybe put our toys away? So, like it just changes the whole sort of drumbeat. I don't know if I answered that.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's not removing the acknowledgement of like if a boundary has been crossed or if something has happened in a workplace that doesn't meet, for example, for a leader, like you didn't meet the deadline. Let's talk about what we need to do next time to empower you to meet the deadline. That's not removing that from the equation, like, right?
No, I think what you're talking about is people get focused on blame. Blame is different than accountability, right? And, I'll quote, I think she's been overquoted, but God love her. Like Dr. Becky, right? What does she say? A boundary is something that requires no behavior on your end for it to be. Otherwise, it's a request, right? So we often confuse boundaries. We've over-therapized this language. Like, they crossed my boundary. Why? Because they didn't do something I wanted. Well, that's not a boundary. They just didn't follow your request, right? A boundary sounds like, if you don't get this project in on time, I'm going to staff it something differently, right? And then you staff it differently. I think where we go into bad patterns is blame never solved anything. Now, there's exceptions to this, right? If someone's sexually harassing somebody at work, you don't want to say, if you continue sexually harassing someone, then you want to say you won't work here anymore, right? That's the boundary. Yeah. If you have the power to make that choice. But in most cases, blame is just not healthy, right? It's quite destructive.
Yes. On a positive note, I feel like a lot of people that I observe worry about their inability to connect or to do so in like a meaningful, authentic way. And it seems like, again, something that is a real gift for you and it's very innate. So I'm wondering if you have advice for people as they want to forge stronger, deeper connections.
It's a great question. I can take in 7 directions. I'm curious, Rachel, when you ask that.
This is why we end up talking for hours, because it's like Avenue 1, Avenue 2, Avenue 3.
Yes. When you think about people, there's categories of people that struggle with connection, right? What is the most typical place that you like where do you see people struggle that you'd like me to talk about?
For the purpose, based on your expertise, let's take it in the professional realm. And I'm almost thinking of people who say, I hate networking. I want to have more substantive relationships in my work circles. It feels forced. Like maybe we could talk about how people can do a better job in that particular arena.
Perfect. So here's what I'll say. Most people that say, I've never met anyone that says, I love networking, right? The only people that are actually good at networking, and I use air quotes because I just don't love that word, because networking in the United States, at least, has a quid pro quo built into it, right? So I'm going to connect with you because someday I may need something from you, right? And so it feels icky. And so when we go into an exchange thinking that, I always say we feel like we've got our tin cup. Like, connect with me, I might need you, you have more social capital. Natural connectors don't even think in that realm. They're just generally curious, right? So one of the categories professionally of folks that I see that struggle to connect is they're just not very naturally curious, right? So if someone's listening, this is something, self-awareness. Are you curious or not, right? And no one has ever connected through talking about the weather, right? Nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? How old are you? Tell me where you live. Like, those questions are not connection questions. They're superficial. Let's use some airtime. And that's why people hate networking, right? People that are natural connectors are interested in really knowing people around them, even if it's in a short exchange, right? So you think about, I was in an Uber the other day, and in a 45-minute drive, I knew about this guy, right? I connected with this guy. But first, I heard his accent. And in today's world, you want to be careful. But I was really curious where he was from. I'm really good at accents. I couldn't place it. And so I asked him, hey, if you don't mind me asking, where are you from? And he said, Boston, which was not where he was from. And I said, you've moved here from Boston. I hear your accent, though, and I usually am good at placing it. We had a whole conversation, right? I think those levels of questions people are afraid of. And I think it goes back to, you have to be connected to self. So you have to trust yourself. The people that are good at connecting trust themselves enough to allow themselves to be curious, right? So we underestimate how much other people want to talk about themselves. We underestimate how much other people have to teach us, And so the people that are good at connection, sort of like the secret sauce, is allow yourself to be curious and ask questions beyond that, right? So what do you do for a living? I'm in marketing, right? And just allowing yourself to be a little light, playful. If you don't know what marketing is, I mean, professionally, most people know, but like, I don't know about that. What do you like about that? Right? Like, instead of asking, what do you do, who, asking a lot of how questions or why, the minute you get beyond who, what, where, and you go to why and how, if I could give one tip, is move your questions as quickly as you can, right? Like, let's say you're socially awkward, right? Which a lot of people are. Move your questions to how and why, and you'll connect with people faster, right? If that makes sense.
So much sense.
It does. It's the same kind of questions you'd ask to a tarot deck, Rachel. Why and how?
Yes.
I mean, you're right, Laura. There are so many directions we could take this, but what I sort of heard in your answer just then was like, curiosity sort of requires you to acknowledge and live in the fact that you don't know everything, which can be uncomfortable for people in a professional setting.
Yeah.
I want to take us down another thought avenue in connection too, because I know a lot of folks in executive roles talk about, and in my own experience too, I've been in roles where I was alone with the weight of my own decisions. Like, it can be lonely to be in charge.
Yes.
So I'm curious how you sort of help set people you're working with, or how you would advise people you're working with to set up systems so they are not so lonely, so they have people in their orbit to talk to when things get tough at work.
Look, it's a great question, Gina.
Thank you, Laura.
The loneliest job in the world is CEO, right? And as you climb a ladder, it gets lonelier. And we don't want, look, we're not bringing out a truckload of violins for the CEOs in the world, right? But entrepreneurs are very lonely also, and CEOs. And the reason is they don't have what I would call a cohort or a pod. And so when you think about it, you climb the ladder, CEO's a pod of one, and even though their exec team may be part of their team, or the head of marketing, their team might be the exec team, and then their working team, and you can have intimacy there and you can have connection. But when stuff's really broken, if you're a great leader, you're managing across too. So you're not going to go to your peers and say, I think the marketing plan's a disaster. You're not going to go down to your team, and you're processing that alone, to your point, Gina. So how do you get around that? I find that the busier and the more an executive is in love with their work, the less likely they are to have a cohort, right, of other people that do your work that you could call outside of your work. I see this more with men than with women, if I'm being honest. Like, I went to University of Chicago for business school. There's a group of us women that still hang out, right? And we'll ping ideas to each other. And there's a couple guys in our cohort, and they're harder to pin down. They're harder to get to join our calls, So I do think there's some gender norms around this that are evolving. We see this too with men, right? Men will go out and play sports or around a golf, and they're not talking about their deepest, darkest fears yet, right? So I think there's some skill gaps that get coded real young into us just around gender norms. It's evolving, not fast enough for my taste. But the processes I usually ask is, who's your board of directors, your personal board of directors that you can go to for counsel? Who are your professional friends? And so often people have personal friends, but those personal friends don't always understand your professional context. Mm-hmm. And so this concept of professional friends beyond connection, right, that is sort of your mastermind group you can go to, is one of the first things I work with execs. And we try to do it early, right? So like if you're at the manager level, it's best to do it your whole career. But the higher you climb, the harder it is to build that. And so folks should, starting early, who's my board of directors? Who am I going to call? Who's my pod? That's the best strategy, because connection in the workforce when the chips are really down can happen on your team, but it's real hard to do that and stay healthy, right? Because it can turn into gossip quickly. It can turn into negativity quickly. So it's so much healthier to go outside of your context for that.
I've heard this term personal board of directors over the years, and I've always really liked it without maybe spending enough time analyzing what it looks like in practice. So if somebody wanted to, at any juncture in their career, be intentional and try to put it together, what guidance would you give about how to go about that and who should be on that board? How many people? Should they be older? What are you looking for as you amass those people?
So it's so interesting. So on my personal board of directors, I had an opening last year. So I always think I had an opening. And you can have a board of directors that's, however many people you want. You don't want it to be 100. And it should, like a healthy board, you should be thinking about board development, right? Like what are new members of the board? The seat, I realized my board had gotten old, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And part of that is we always think they have to be people that could advise me, right? But no, right? I wanted someone in their 20s, like someone new career on my board of directors, because the world is changing so quickly. And I have more to learn probably from a 20-year-old right now than from a 70-year-old, which was a couple folks on my board. And why is that? Because you want to be accurate. You want your board of directors to help you be accurate and real. And when we're stressed out, we distort reality, right? We start seeing all kinds of things that aren't true. So if you were thinking about creating a board, I would want you to think about a pod within that board that's living your life. People at your life stage that you respect. They don't have to be perfect. Often we'll say, I think and we see all their weaknesses. But a board of people you respect, that you like to hang out with, but that you could ping, right? Hey, I'm working on this confidentially, like, in your case, Rachel, it would be like other independent PR people, right? That are building their businesses, that like other entrepreneurs that are building businesses like yours. It doesn't have to be in PR. How do you handle billing? I just spoke to one recently who made a really great reco that's in my line of work about a new 360 model, right? And I was sharing a problem with them. So you want a pod that's that. You do want some folks that are not so far up the line that their counsel is dated, right? You want someone that's 10 to 15 years ahead of you on the career path. A couple of those folks, right? And you want to understand that all of these folks are sort of there for you to ping for different questions. The bulk of it should be peers, though, where you can go problem solve day-to-day stuff. And then you want some folks that are behind you, because what will happen as you climb is you'll have a challenge with a younger person. And we forget how dumb we were. We forget how immature we were. I tell people to keep a journal. Like everybody, you'll talk to an exec and they think they came out being strategic and good at people. It's like, no, when you were 23, you were a goof, like every 23-year-old. And so you want, this is not to say if you're a 23-year-old listening that you're a goof, but you are, right? You're learning. And that's okay. If you find me a 23-year-old that's perfect, and I'll find you someone that's reached their peak at 23, right? I'm still working on mine at 50. And so like, I think you build it and then you want to assess it, like what's missing. And I usually tell folks you should have a personal board of directors too, right? My mom's on mine, like she doesn't know anything about me professionally, but she sure knows when I'm not living my values. And so just when you have that, I want you to think about your board are sources of truth for you, sources of commiseration, right? Folks that believe in whose belief you could borrow now and then.
Mm. Oh, Laura, that's so inspiring.
I know the whole time you were talking, I was like, listen. But my mind was starting to go to like, who would be on my board? Like my friend Shrina would be on my board. Yeah, I know, but I'm like, stay engaged.
No, you should. Everyone should have one. It makes the world less lonely,
Mm-hmm.
And it'll surprise you when that same board will come to you too. It doesn't all have to be, when we think of a corporate board, there's reciprocal things there.
Yeah. I want to tap back to the COVID of it all, because you mentioned when we first started this conversation that there are differences in connection to the pre-COVID world and to now. And I'm sure that has to do with how we work. And I'm sure that has to do with how we network and how we connect. Where do you see the COVID of it all most in the work you do?
So there's a bunch of research, a book called Positivity, I recommend, by a woman named Barbara Fredrickson. She's an academic. And she made it the most digestible for lay folks. So that's why I recommend that book. But when you think about, it's a bunch of research around human micro connection and human resonance, right? So when we think about being happy, people that are happy at the bottom level have a range of happy to not so happy of about a 6 to 1 at the bottom level, right? Some of the happiest folks have ratios of 12, 15 to 1, positivity to negativity ratio. Turns out those positive moments come through micro connection. So you think about, I wake up, I drive to work, right? I'm a fairly positive, happy person, is the truth. I'm blessed. It's chemical. It's the beauty of genes. I was born that way. But I'll be driving to work and I'll smile at someone next to me in traffic. It helps I'm Midwestern, right? Or I stop at the dry cleaner and I drop my dry cleaning. Nice to see you. How are you? How's the kids, right? There's a micro moment. Go to Starbucks, order my coffee, smile at the barista. Positive, positive, positive. I'm in my car. I see a bird. I smile at the bird. Or maybe I don't smile at the bird. I'm happy to see the cardinal.
Why not?
In the middle of the snow. And then maybe I get stuck at a red light and I'm late and I'm like, oh, right? So 1 to 12. What happened during COVID, and they're called positivity resonance moments. Then we have big vibe positivity resonance. This is like when you're in flow with a peer or a team. Those supercharges. In the workplace, and this is the thing that makes my work hard because you're not putting the cat in the bag. Working remotely and distributed does a lot of good things for a lot of people, not least of which the three of us are women on this call, right? Like for working moms, for working parents, it's done a lot. That said, in the workplace, in healthy workplaces that were not toxic, you used to have a lot of moments of positive resonance, right? I go fill up my coffee. I walk down the hall. I even think about the language. Do you know what's dying? Work spouse, my work best friend. There's a bunch of research around this, right? I'm happiest when I have a work best friend, when I have a work spouse, when I have my pod, the people I talk to. What happened before and after COVID is both our lives changed and our work changed. So we're not out in the world as much. And we think, it's okay. I'm still, even those folks that are extroverts, I'm still going out with my friends sometimes. But all those micro connections, if you think about it, it's a ticker, right? We have a lot less today. Full stop. We're not going to movie theaters. We're watching movies. We're streaming, right? So think about the power of laughing in a theater, right? Of interacting with the popcorn clerk and saying, put more butter on my popcorn. We've lost so many micro resonance moments, and convenience does this too. When you look at the ratio of like DoorDash, leave my food on the porch and knock and run, right? It used to be because we were afraid of COVID. Now it's because we're embarrassed that we ordered 2 appetizers. So we're not connecting at all to say even thank you, right? So that's impacted overall well-being, I think, overall happiness. We are social creatures. The thing that sets us apart from chimpanzees, one of the few, we're very close to them, is we have a part of our brain that's designed to trust and connect. It's much bigger. It's about 100 times bigger. And so we've lost that. In the workplace, we've lost it too. So if you think about Zoom, we get on meetings at 2. What's the agenda? Let's talk. Meeting ends. We go to the next meeting. Where's the minute when we're all in the room before the meeting starts, sort of laughing at each other? Where's the casual touch, which touch is still okay, folks, right? Like you're touching someone on the arm or you're saying hello. We've lost, so people are feeling quite untethered. Work has become sort of a thing I do. And that's what I see before and after COVID, but we can't name it. It's just a general malaise that people are feeling, like a general disconnected, and they get burned out. There's a bunch of stuff that shows connection as the antidote to burnout. So we're burned out, we're feeling disconnected, but we don't know why, because no one says, I miss my barista, right? I miss walking past Bob going to the bathroom. But the truth is, the big connections in our life are pretty much there. It's all those micro connections that make the difference between a good life that feels like a community and one that just feels like you're isolated, right?
Laura, I'm mulling over something. So much of this makes sense, but one tiny example is I was feeling like this year started in such a slump. I just wasn't very excited about things. I couldn't really goal set. I just went into January like the deep winter. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I ended up having an opportunity to go to a course at NYU for 3 days to do this intensive with Susie Welch.
I think I saw that on LinkedIn or somewhere.
Yes. And she is a dynamo. But I was trying to figure out how flying all the way to New York and spending 9 to 5, 3 days in a row in a classroom was not depleting me. And instead, I felt like I'd been plugged into a socket. And I was like, oh, I work from home and all of my stuff is pretty much on the computer with coffees here and there. I forgot how incredibly energizing it is to make new friends, to be in a lecture hall, to hear somebody speaking face to face. I was like front row all 3 days. And I'm like, aha, maybe the reason I feel so down and uninspired is that I am in a chamber and I need to be out in the world.
Yes, but the problem is we like having a problem, right? So what's the problem, Giselle? Why are you feeling ennui, right? You have
Yes.
family, and we don't realize that little things matter, right? And by the way, humans are delightful. And so there's novelty. And I say this, I'm an introvert. I'm a social introvert. You're an extrovert. So you felt plugged in. At the end of something like that, I feel depleted, but filled, right? So as an introvert, as a social introvert. But there's something about you talk to somebody and they have a different life experience, right? And it just changes your mental lens, and it increases, you're more likely to be compassionate for yourself if you've got a broader view and you can be compassionate for somebody else. So that's exactly part of it. And we've been desensitized. Like, we don't like crowds as much. We've become much more fragile around inconvenience, right? And being with people is inconvenient. It just is. And so there's a lot of that. I was reading, I was explaining to somebody much younger than me. I actually am old enough to have been social at an age where not everyone had a cell phone. And they were asking me what happened. Go meet somebody, and then what would happen? Because I stood my husband up for our first date because I got stuck in the restaurant. And I said, he sat there at the restaurant for 4 hours and made me feel guilty for several years, saying he sat there and waited for me. I didn't have a phone to call him. Later, I found out that it was March Madness. He figured I had bailed and watched the basketball game, but he used it to his advantage. But at the time, I'm sure he talked to people at the bar and things, right? He didn't have a phone in which I could, or he did. I don't remember why I couldn't call. But I'm sure he didn't have a smartphone. I'll tell you that. So he wasn't able, right, to if I had been late, he would have been on his phone. Instead, he was watching the game with others. And I think the tech has changed that too, right? So being in a classroom, being live, I tell folks as a trainer, being able to do workshops on Zoom has allowed us to democratize training. But given a choice, I do live every day. People, social learning is real.
Yeah. We've talked about these micro interactions on the podcast before. Because I had voiced that the thing I missed during COVID was talking to my Trader Joe's checkout line person.
Yes.
I just wanted someone to ask me about the tiny cucumbers I bought and what I was going to do with them. Yes. I missed it. So I totally understand what you're saying. Rachel, what do you think? One more question each, and then we jump into a connection. I know we could talk to Laura forever.
I know. Yeah, there is actually something I want to say. And clearly, Laura, this is a love fest because I've admired you so much for so long. But one thing I really like is that I think you lead a very big life and a bold and ambitious life. And so you could have just run Verde Associates forever and done great client work. But then you thought, oh, I'm going to go get a PhD. And then after you climbed that mountain, now you were just telling me recently about another new chapter you're pursuing and this really interesting era. So I just wanted to give you the floor to talk about what drives you forward and what this new era entails.
Well, thanks for that. Look, I think we treat life like it's, not to be cliche, but so many folks treat it like it's a dress rehearsal, right? So I always tell folks, if you ever catch yourself watching somebody else and thinking, it must be nice, or any sort of resentment stuff, I want you to substitute, I tell clients, with, I'd like to, right? This works with spouses too. Must be nice to sit on the couch while I'd like to sit on the couch too. Can you help me? Right? To move out of that. And a couple of years ago, I turned 50 this year. And
happy birthday.
A lot of the research says, you lower our estrogen and we just turn into machines, us women. We see a little testosterone. Get your hormones, ladies. But one of the things I will say is I spent some time thinking about what this next decade would look like. And certainly as my need as a person that has a family and pays bills, what the after would look like. And I had the good fortune to be introduced to forest therapy, forest bathing, which is, if you think about the Japanese, they do Shinrin Yoku, right? Which is forest bathing. Talking about isolation. When the Japanese moved into cities, they realized that there was a general malaise. And that was disconnection, but in a different form, disconnection of people from nature, right? When we think about connections, we always think about human connection, but the truth is we are built to be connected with the more than human world, right? Animals, trees. Not to be super nerdy, but we have electrical systems in our heart, that run our whole bodies, really. And they emit about 5 feet. So that's why you can vibe with someone especially, right, you could feel someone's energy. Trees have that too. It's the same energy that drives stuff up, as I look out my window at my big oak, that drives stuff up their bodies. So we can feel the energy of nature, and people are very disconnected from that. And so my next phase, I'm actually going to spend some time in Slovenia in spring, finishing up my certification. I've spent the last year. I'm going to become a forest therapy guide. In the beginning, I think I'm going to do it. I still don't know what's going to happen. I think I believe, I sit in this class when I talk about new connections. So many of the people are so different than me, so I've learned so much from them, about patience, about bearing witness without having to participate in something. But my plan is to do that certainly between whatever retirement is, call it 60, hopefully before then, but at some point until I get put in the ground or I find something else. And somewhere along the way, I think I'm going to find a way to help executives use it as a power because it's so grounding. And I think I've seen it really change the research on this. It's cancer fighting. It does all sorts of good things when you're in the forest. So that's my next stage. I will say you have found, I always say I move from muse to muse. I've always had trees and things, but the universe sends you signs, right? I think our forebears, those that have gone before us that touch the universe more. But like everywhere in my life, like I've got tree towel, like it seems to have taken over. Everywhere I go, there's signs that this is the right next thing. So we'll see. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm excited to see how it turns out. That's what I'm doing next.
I love this for you.
Thanks. Me too.
Yeah. Nature's so good for us. We could talk about like the water of it all, the trees of it all, like even just like smelling an artificial, the smell of forest, something that reminds you of forest or dirt, like gives you a positive boost. The ions that are emitted from water give you a positive. This is going to be so powerful. I'm so excited to hear what's next.
Yeah. And I'll say this to you about all of you guys about connection, right? Like, I think I listened to a couple of your podcasts before, right? So just the tarot, all of those things, they're really pathways to helping us connect to the more than human world, right? Something beyond us. Mm-hmm. And so for some folks, that's through nature. For some folks, that's through spirituality. But when we think about connection, the happiest people, think about all the research on faith and all those things. The happiest people feel connected to something greater than themselves, right? So I'm Hispanic. For us, it's generational, right? As people die, Coco and all that, you die 3 deaths. I don't know how familiar you are with that. But that connection is so healthy for children to be connected to their ancestors. So I think nature is just another embodiment of that. People that feel connected to the world do better connecting with others, right? In general.
Mm-hmm. Before we jump into our connection conversation, I am sure that the work you do with your clients is different for every single person, but I'm curious if there is a piece of advice or a sentence that you feel yourself or find yourself giving to people over and over when it comes to connection, and what that might be.
There's a couple things, but I think if it was one sentence, is state your intent. Often people that feel disconnected are trying to connect and the other party's misreading it. So state your intent. I'm trying to get to know you. I'd like to have a better relationship with you. You'd be so shocked how often we think we understand each other. We don't. It's a miracle we do anything. State your intent. That can change your life. And the other one is state what you're afraid of to yourself. It's probably.
Ooh. I know we want to talk forever, but Rachel, what do you think? Connection conversation?
Let's dive in.
You want to kick it off?
Yes. Okay. My earbuds made the sound that they're about to die. Hi, Ben. So hopefully
Hey,
they'll
Ben.
push through this next part, but I just wanted to flag that might happen. Okay. Laura, so we have these 3 questions we ask at the end of every interview. The first one is, who is the last connection you made?
So this is a great question. I was thinking about the 50 definitions of connection, right? But if I define it at its deepest level, I actually have a neighbor. Our office is in a residential area. He's a retired blacksmith in his 70s, right? He'll work in his garage. And in the last year and a half, he has become my very dear, good neighbor friend. So he'll wave. He made me a little birdhouse for outside my window. I hung a bird feeder for him to look out. He came to Buddhism late in his life. And we have a lot of interesting, his name is Bob Miller. We have a lot of interesting conversations. Like, he's just the loveliest man. And so I pull up at work sometimes and I'm like, oh, there, I saw him. I get to wave. And he's just, it's nice to find a friend like that.
We all need a Bob Miller.
We do.
If you were to have a conversation with your younger self, Laura, and give her advice on connecting with other people, what would you tell younger Laura?
I was thinking about this. At the risk of being overly vulnerable, we all have our own trauma patterns. I think it'd be two things. That it's okay to ask for connection to be reciprocal. I think as a child of immigrants, as fill in the blank of a lot of demographic things, I think I always was over open and looked to over connect as a way of protection, actually, the other way. And I wasn't always mindful about making sure it was reciprocal. So I think I would give her that. Adult me has learned that. I think I would want me to have learned it maybe a couple decades earlier. And the other one is that you don't have to earn connection through capability. So I was always a really kind of capable person, and I would prove myself, like, look how good I am so that you connect with me. And I think both of those are rooted in poor worthiness that was probably there a lot more when I was younger. So that would be the advice I would give a younger self. I wish I'd come to that sooner.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I always appreciate a real and vulnerable answer.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And you're so worthy of reciprocity in all connections.
We don't see ourselves, right? That's what I say to you. We don't see ourselves all the time. Now I know that, but 25-year-old me did not, right?
Yes. There's a lot I'm going to reflect on that you've said today. Okay. You've connected with a lot of people. If you could, who would be your dream connection?
I was thinking about this. One, it would have been, if my father died when I was 17, I would love my adult dad to meet adult me. But barring a seance, I think Peter Wohlenben, and I always mispronounce his last name, he's the author of The Secret Life of Trees. And so when I think about this man, he has no idea who I am. This journey that I think will define my life, the way I connect with a forest, really started changing before I knew what it was. Often in Spanish, we have this saying, just when we think we've been buried, we've been planted. And I think, when did I read? I read it like 5 years ago. And the first time I entered a forest, it changed my life. Like, when you think about anything that changes your life is something that changes your whole mental paradigm. And his book did that for me. And I think put me on this, whatever my next journey is going to be. So I'd love to meet him, just to walk a forest with him,
Laura, send him a note.
I probably should.
Yeah. You should.
Yeah.
He's German, I think. And I probably will.
And Google Translate will help.
No,
The Secret Life of Trees is in English, right?
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, and I've seen him speak, on like different recording things. And again, he's not a big famous guy. He's an author, but authors are usually more accessible. I'm not quite ready to fangirl enough, but we'll see. I mean, I just think there's so much, those folks that are deeply connected to the forest understand it in a different way. So I think he'd be fun, just a fun person to know.
Oh,
love that.
Laura, thank you for sharing
as we
all
wrap
your
up,
wisdom.
Yes. Yeah. Rachel's sister's name is also Laura, so I'm sure she's shared that she just loves Laura's in general. But Rachel and I, for the listener, if you're not watching this, we have been smiling ear to ear for this entire conversation. This has been such a delight. Laura, for our listener, where can they find you? Where can they follow you and learn more about you?
I am stealthier than I want to be, in that I'm usually just doing work and not doing a whole lot of stuff. But we have a website, Verde Associates.com. You can go there, pop me a note. Laura at Verde Associates. You can pop me an email. I'm terrible on email, but I'll respond at some point. So they can find me wherever they want. I'm around.
Oh. Well, Laura, I'm so happy we met all those years ago. I'm so grateful you gave us this time. I keep thinking about different tree aspects and how you're like such a deeply rooted person, and that there feels like a really beautiful synergy, that this would be a new place for you to go explore, and something that feels more like heart forward.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think one of the things I was talking about yesterday, one of the forest folks, you talk about rewilding. And I think we spend so much time performing to bring our convo full circle. We spend so much time performing and hiding ourselves. And if we get to live a great life, I think we end up unhiding ourselves, usually in our 50s and 60s, right? This is why you see old people with like crazy hair and blue. I plan to have crazy hair and blue glasses. But I think this coming true back to ourselves when we've removed all the performance is connection to self. So I think about all of that, right? The trees have a lot to teach. They bend with the wind, but they're kind of there, right? They live at a different pace. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been such a delight. And honestly, like, you're my friend now too.
Awesome. Granted. Easy to do. Well, nice to meet you, Gina. And Rachel, always fantastic to see you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Gina, are you now equally obsessed with Laura?
I don't know what we did before. I really don't know what we did before. Thank goodness for Laura being here today.
I think that I'm just personally always in awe of incredibly brilliant people. Just somebody who mentally operates at a level that I think is so far beyond the ordinary. But then she also has this really beautiful disposition about her, that she's very calm and even keeled and able to see things from different points of view. So it's almost as though she has the disposition and the intellect in combination, and that is the unicorn factor.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of the feeling I got from her. And I would just add that she comes off as extremely, I think this is also what you're saying, Rachel, but like she comes off as extremely safe. Like she is a safe person to share things with. And she also listens in a non-judgmental way. Even like you may get a sense for it on the podcast, but there's this sort of really beautiful moment where Laura pauses, takes in what you're saying, actively understands it, and then reacts to it. She is not a reactive person. She is very, very thoughtful.
Yes. I think she's active listening personified.
Yeah.
And a student of people, like really, I think looks at situations and people and tries to understand and analyze and then offer value. And I think underneath it all, she talked about loving people, and that people throw that word around. But I think she feels safe because you can believe that she has your best interests front and center.
Yeah.
And she's very heart forward. And she's doing this because she's a deeply caring individual, not somebody who is clinical and sterile.
Yeah. And like how many research studies, data points, she's just armed to the teeth with wonderful nuggets of information that not only make you feel smarter by the time you leave her presence, but also give her validity, trust in the things that she's saying. Like, come on, Laura, the best.
I can barely remember my phone number and address in succession. And like for somebody to pull out obscure research studies and the author of, I just am like, oh, you'd be so good on Jeopardy.
I mean, yeah. And she loves trees. Amazing.
Yes.
Well, Rachel, should we do show and tell?
Yes, let's dive in.
What did you bring for show and tell today?
My show and tell is accidentally controversial, which I think is so funny.
Yeah.
I love, and especially with my sister, making vacation friends. And it's not even a conscious thing. If I'm on vacation, I'm interested in knowing who else is on that vacation, which means conversations around the hotel or whatever activity we're doing. And even recently, yesterday, I went to coffee with a woman who I met in Mexico because I really thought she had a cute toddler, and her husband was super chatty. And then he's like, you and my wife should exchange information. You should hang out in Chicago. And I was like, sure. And so she and I texted, And then I thought, oh, this will go by the wayside. Like, it was nice to meet you. It was nice to meet you. But she took the reins and she asked me to coffee. We went yesterday, had a great time.
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's a vacation friend that really translated all the way from Punta Mita to Wicker Park. But I was out to dinner with some girlfriends and I was explaining the situation because this coffee woman went to Northwestern with a girl at the table. And they're like, I'm sorry, you make what? Vacation friends? And I'm like, yeah, where you like meet people on vacation, then you hang out. They were shocked and appalled. Like, I didn't realize some people are adamantly opposed to vacation friends because they're like, I'm on my trip with my significant other, my family, whatnot. I don't need a new relationship.
No new friends. Yeah.
And actually sometimes feel like a little put upon if somebody's like too friendly or too chatty, like, I have a wall up here. Like, I'm not looking to have a conversation at like the tall stand. So they thought I was kind of crazy. And I just want feedback. Like, do people like making vacation friends? Is it really controversial? Why wouldn't you want to make friends on vacation? Am I driving people crazy? I don't know. My sister and I, to wrap this up full circle, also went on our annual sister trip. And I think we had been there 2 hours and there was a free happy hour. So we obviously went. And then we sat on a couch right by this couple, like, hey, do you mind if we sit by you? And then you're not going to just sit across from somebody and not introduce yourselves and ask where they're from and ask how they met and ask all these things. So by the time my sister and I were really tipsy, we had exchanged information. He had donated to a Minnesota fundraiser my sister was running. The next time we saw them at breakfast, we were hugging. I mean, like, I'm LinkedIn and Instagram connected. That's just what we do.
Yeah. I am curious.
What do you think?
So I think I am also a vacation friend person. I love to make vacation friends. I'm wondering if it's a Minnesota thing. Do you think, like, I don't know for sure, but I know, like, you and we got 2 data points here. 2 of us here on this call from Minnesota like to make vacation friends. Could be that. It also could be like the type of vacationer you are. You know, you are like a social explorer, like, right? Like, you like to like try new things, meet new people, mix it up.
Yes. I think I just, in a silly way, assumed most people felt the same as I did. And when my friends looked at me like I was absolutely nuts, I was like, oh, this is not a shared reality. Some people don't want to leave a trip with new friends.
Let me tell you about the first time I went on vacation with my in-laws. So we were standing in line.
Wait, can I guess that they're not vacation friend people?
You are absolutely correct that they are not vacation friend people.
Because they're not from Minnesota.
Because they're not from Minnesota. 3 data points. So we're standing in line at O'Hare Airport, outside of Chicago, or Chicago's airport, if you will. And in line for this flight to Mexico, I was talking to people because a line is a place where people gather. Why wouldn't I talk to people? And I looked back at then it was like my boyfriend's mom, but I looked back at my now mother-in-law, and she was like, she looked at Justin, my now husband, then boyfriend, and went, she talks to people in the line. And I heard her say that, and I went, yeah, airplane friends. And to this day, they will say like airplane friends to me. I think it could be distinctly Minnesota. It could be a personality thing. I don't know. I think we need people to weigh in on this.
I would love to hear. I have so many stories of travel bonds. I ended up helping a guy on a flight to San Diego write his best man speech.
Of course,
you did. But just like stuff happens when you're traveling. You're out of your element. I made friends with a Secret Service agent. I mean, there's lots of stories.
I want to know how it came to pass that you were helping with the best man speech. Was it like laptop out, you looked over and noticed that he was blank page? How did it start?
I don't want to cut into your time because I know we're going to go long.
We need it.
Okay, I was in my 20s. I was on a flight for work to do this crazy P.F. Chang's event.
Of course.
And it was me in the window seat, open middle, cute guy in the aisle seat. So I clocked him as I got on the flight, but it was also really early and I was really tired. So I took a nap. But once I was awake, I was very interested in what was going on with the cute guy in my aisle or in my row. And he was like, not even laptop, like handwriting something and like kind of struggling. And I'm like gently invasive.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, like, what are you working on? And he's like, oh, I'm headed to my brother's wedding. I'm the best man. This speech is like not coming together. And I was like, I love to write and I've been to a ton of weddings. Do you want help? And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. And so we workshopped.
Oh my God. Did you get his phone number?
I don't think I did that I recall. But this was also a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
But my friend Amy met her husband on an airplane, so you just don't know. Yeah,
you never know. Talk on airplanes. Like,
talk on airplanes.
I met a boyfriend or like a boy something. It was one of those like not quite boyfriend college relationships on a bus from Madison, Wisconsin to Minnesota because we both were from Minnesota. There was like a 3.5 hour conversation that turned into like several dates later.
I love this.
Know? Yeah,
I have dated 2 people that I've met on the L.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Don't let a good transportation moment go to waste.
Look up from your phone, friends.
Well, this was pre-era smartphone. Like that's the thing is you did look at people and you did talk to people because there wasn't that much to do on the L.
Right. Or they were reading dead tree books, like so you could look across from you and say like, oh, how is that book? Like conversation.
Yes.
The lost art.
Truly. Okay. What is your show and tell this week?
Well, okay. So I am torn between 2, but I think I'll bring, Priya Parker has a Substack. We love Priya Parker for a lot of reasons. She wrote the book, The Art of Gathering. She is deeply passionate about gathering and making gathering a more connective activity. Her life's work, if you will. She has a day job still as a facilitator. So she like will show up at corporate events and facilitate trainings, etc. Amazing. So she has this community. There's a paid element of the Substack. It's called, so she has group work and group life. Group life is the Substack. Group work is her monthly like Zoom workshop where she comes with a topic, presents on it, and then you can ask her questions in real time. So I said all of this to say I joined recently because I love her and anything to get closer to Priya Parker.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I'm being totally transparent, anything to get closer to Priya Parker. And then the topic of the session this month was gathering for introverts, which I thought was so interesting because we had just had this conversation with
where Laura told you you're an introvert.
And that's something like I usually say like I'm an extroverted introvert. But then as Priya was talking, Priya Parker, like we're on a first name basis, Priya, as Priya was sharing some of her tips for introverts who host gatherings, the tips she shared were directly in line with things I had done naturally with the sweat life.
Activities.
Activities, having something to do with your hands. Also like giving people jobs. So you don't feel like if you're hosting an event, like it's all on you. And when someone shows up, you're giving them something to do with their hands so that you can have help and not worry about the conversation. Having someone, she really believes in like a warm threshold, which I do too. So like a greeting at the door, something to do at the door, something that makes you understand like where you are, what you're doing there, what it's about. And that can be as simple as like, welcome, I'm Gina. Here's another friend you haven't met yet, which is literally what we did at every single event that Is What Life hosted. And if I couldn't be at the door, I gave the job to an ambassador to be at the door and make other people friends. And there was
a warm threshold.
Warm threshold.
It's so true. To be able to walk in someplace and feel welcomed and also eliminate the cafeteria syndrome of where do I talk to? Where should exactly.
Yeah. She gave one tip for introverts attending events that I really liked. So if you consider yourself not even an introvert, but like a nervous attendee, like I'm I'm worried. This isn't my normal group of friends. I want to go, but I'm going alone. The piece of advice she gave was come on time. Like be there right on time. And the reason why is she said, like, if you come on time, like you're immediately like the host is grateful because someone's there on time. And like you're a person they can give a job to. So you can ask immediately, like, how can I help? And then when other people show up, her words were, you're the OG. You're like the person who's there. You're the person that's introduced to everyone because you're there first. I really like that advice.
Point. Yes.
Not to give up
right.
everything that Priya says, but like, obviously you should join group life. But I loved that session. I thought it was so like thoughtful and warm. And obviously she held a warm threshold in a Zoom too. So that's also something she advocates for. So if you're holding like a Zoom at work, something you do very naturally, Rachel, I'm sure in your like video meetings, is just like having the chat, being the first one there and chatting with people as they arrive, making it warm for other people, connecting people to each other. She's a genius.
She's great. Okay. One day, Priya, we will converse with you. We'll be a warm threshold.
I know. I also want to bring up one other thing she kept saying. So like for every example or every tip, she'd say like, I attended a wedding once that blah, blah, blah. I went to a house party once that blah, blah, blah. I went to a third birthday once. I feel like she has to be at events all the time.
Yes.
And if Priya Parker was on your guest list, wouldn't you feel nervous about it?
Yes. Yes. It'd be like hosting a professional chef for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd love to make you a scrambled egg dish, chef. Like, oh my God.
Expectations low.
Well, anything else we want to put into the ether about Priya Parker besides come on this podcast?
No, I think ever since reading her book, it has shifted truly with some permanence how I think about gathering, and that's a real gift. And I recommend the book wholheartedly.
Yeah.
The Art of Gathering.
The Art of Gathering. And she did say something about a new book, by the way. Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, work, and everything in between. And this is a production by two friends, Rachel Gilman-Rischel and me, Gina Anderson Cohen. You can follow us on Instagram and on LinkedIn using our full names. Thank you so much to Laura Sanchez-Greenberg for being here today. And thank you to Ben Cleaver for editing this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.